Hello and welcome to this brief beginner tutorial for Arma reforger. In this video I'm going to cover three main topics. Be an overview of two game modes, one called Conflict and one called AAS or Advanced and Secure. I'll discuss logistics and then finally touch on infantry gameplay. The information that I will give in this video is mostly correct, however a few elements will vary server to server, especially around logistics and other vehicles as well. The advice I give in this video is mostly accurate to WCS servers at the time of recording, as that's where I primarily play. One of the beauties of Arma reforger is you can really set the pace of your own gameplay. You can go from driving trucks, listening to music, to fighting on the front lines, or flying and driving heavier vehicles around the battlefield. There are options that kind of allow you to shape how you play and what pace of gameplay, and that's the part I really enjoy. So I hope you enjoy this video and I hope it helps you out in the field. Let's begin with game modes. Conflict, the first game mode that I'll talk about, has multiple points on a map which are required to be captured. The ones that win the game are the purple points, and they are marked on the map with the purple text. If all the purple points are held, a timer will begin, and on WCS this is set to 15 minutes. You'll also note that each point has lines connecting it to other points. This marks what can be captured next or where it connects to with your HQ, which allows elements of tactical play by flanking on the map to cut off points and capturing them that way. If you see a yellow point, it means that this point has no connection and cannot be captured yet. When playing Conflict, while the purple points are important, you must also respond to any flanking or attempts to cut off the map, while also trying to open your own fronts. Failure to do so will result in a very quick game. Keep checking the map to see where the enemy is pushing and try to respond to pushes that will threaten your front line. When the timer has started, and if you find yourself on the losing side, if your flanks are clear and the purple point is available for attack, push on to the purple point. 15 minutes in Arma is not a very long time, and a lot can happen. By pushing onto the purple point and clearing the enemy out, you will stop the timer, capture the point, and this will allow you to push out and capture other points. For AAS, there is a long line of all purple points. The gameplay is less dynamic than Conflict, forcing players to specific points in a linear sequence. Backcapping and flanking in the Conflict sense does not exist. However, sending teams to disrupt points is commonplace, even if they cannot be captured. Only 2 points on the map are active at a time, one to attack and one to defend. The line shows connections to the next point, and lastly, as with Conflict, yellow points cannot be captured until the connecting point is captured. For both game modes, hovering your mouse over a point will show the supplies and things that have been built. From left to right, they are arsenals, which are used to amend gear and change loadouts, a light vehicle station, which is used for jeeps and armoured vehicles, heavy vehicle station, which is used for trucks, tanks and APCs, field hospitals, which isn't so important on WCS, but used for medical actions, barracks, which is definitely not important on WCS, but is used to spawn AI teams to help the fight, a radio relay station, which increases the range of radios to allow further range for better MCU or radio placement, and I'll come on to this at a later section, helipads for spawning and landing helicopters, and lastly fuel supply, which is used to keep your vehicles topped up and good to fight. The supply count is on the bottom, and with arsenals and storage depots, the total will vary. Either game mode has no defined game length and no scoreboard. Games can last anywhere really between an hour and a literal day, even longer at times of 48 to 72 hours. You will only see your statistics for a session at the end of that match. You will not be able to see it throughout the game, at least on WCS. So now with a better understanding of the game modes, let's talk about logistics, starting with supply. Every time you spawn in on a WCS server, 50 supplies are taken from that base. Every supply count you see, except that of main base, is player delivered, so keeping points stocked is important for your team's ability to fight. With poor or contested logistics, your team will eventually fail. So while driving trucks seems dull, it's pivotal to a good team. As I touched on in the game mode section, you can see how many supplies are in each base. By hitting M to open your map, You can inspect the counts and see where the front line is. Due to the cost of vehicles and other elements, it is best to spawn vehicles at your main base, as the supplies are constantly being refreshed there automatically. To start, spawn at your main base. Use the map to find the heavy vehicle station, which will be the truck icon. You'll eventually find a board as shown in the video, and when you open it, by holding F, you can see some trucks which you can now spawn. You'll also note that next to the trucks is a supply cost, which will be taken from the main base or the base that you're spawning this vehicle at. Place the truck so the highlight is white, and then exit the placement screen. You now have a truck to be ready to deliver supplies, but we do need to load it up first. To load it, there are two methods, the slow method and the fast method. These also work for unloading supplies as well. The slow method involves going to the back of the truck, scrolling down, holding F on load supplies and watching the truck slowly fill up. However, there is a much quicker method. Hit tab, then take the supply crate box and drag to the truck and hit enter. This will then transfer supplies across, which you'll need to hit enter on again. You'll see that your truck is instantly supplied without having to stand around and holding F. This works the same as unloading as demonstrated in the video and can be really good at resupplying points in a very quick pinch. Now that we have our full truck, we can open our map and choose where we want to deliver them to. In this example, we have 3 points that are under our control and 1 that is under enemy control. Tenor is our front line, Iskra is just behind the front line, and Point Igla is even further in the back line. If I wanted to deliver my supplies from main base to Iskra, I will need to take a more creative approach. In this example, I will say that I'm at Monty along this road here. Now, while going straight down the main road is my quickest option, it's also my fastest option to getting myself killed. So, to maximise my chances of delivering the supplies and getting the XP, I will choose a more creative approach. This could be using the dirt road down below and then cutting through the woods, going further north along the coastline and then cutting down from the north to the south, or I might just absolutely bomb it down the road and hope for the best. By not delivering supplies to a point that needs it will highly hamper your team's ability to stay in the fight. So being creative with your approaches and coming from angles that the enemy aren't expecting will maximise your chances of success to keep your team in the fight. It will also mean that you'll gain XP, which I'll explain later, but will essentially allow you to spawn bigger and better vehicles later in the game. On WCS, once you've reached the rank of Sergeant, you can then spawn helicopters. Helicopters can be used to quickly resupply front points and other points without the hassle of dealing with ground ambushes. However, this does not mean you're safe. You still need to plan effectively, fly low and over the trees as low as you can go, and choose an approach which you think will be the best to maximise your success at landing on the point and delivering those supplies. Logistics is not only limited to supplies, however. The transportation of troops is equally as important, and a good working map knowledge is required here. Ideally, if I am driving, I will find a point within about 400 metres of the objective and drop my troops off there. If I am flying, I will do a similar sort of thing, looking for cover that extends onto the objective to allow my team to push. One thing that I will take into account though is where my team is pushing from. If my team is pushing entirely from the west, I will drop troops off to the east. This is because it creates 2 fronts that the enemy has to defend from, which will create chaos and confusion and inevitably mean that my team will win. If I am repeatedly dropping troops and doing a continuous supply from main base or other bases, I will not drop my troops in the same location more than twice. The reason for this is the enemy isn't dumb. They will extend out and find where I'm landing or where I'm driving to and contest it. The pivot to success here is making sure you get your team down safely and securely and provide avenues of attack that they can get onto the objective with and capture it as quickly as possible. I'll then use my radio later in the game once they have captured a point to pick them up, see if it's safe, and then move on to the next objective. By keeping a high cadence of picking up troops and delivering troops to locations, it means that I can keep the enemy on the back foot and sway the game. In my experience on WCS, good troop logistics can completely turn a game around, pushing from one last point on AAS all the way to the enemy's last point, but it is solely dependent on your communication and ability to get people from A to B safely. The last topic I'll just mention is MCUs and radio backpacks. MCUs, or mobile command units, are a truck that can be used to create a mobile spawn point for your team. A radio backpack works in a similar way, however it is a mobile spawn point for your squad. I won't go into specifics or tactics with these in this video, however, if there is interest I can talk about them in a separate video, so let me know down below. Now lastly, onto infantry gameplay in Arma Reforger. Before we begin here I must reiterate part of the logistics section. Every supply outside of the main base is player delivered, not generated. Someone has driven a truck to that point and delivered those supplies themselves. Each spawn costs 50 on WCS, and vehicles cost more. Do not just spawn a jeep and go in as one person. Maximise the supplies being used and help your team out. One player alone in a jeep cannot turn the tide, so gather some teammates around you and drive them all to the next objective. This also applies to arsenals. If you want to adjust your kit, do it at the main base, as each weapon, attachment, grenade and other launchers have a cost. Communication is also paramount to a successful game, and I'll touch on this slightly later in the video. To begin as infantry in Arma Reforger, we need to decide what to do. Firstly, let's talk squads. To start off, I recommend joining any random squad and using some of the pre-made kits provided. It doesn't matter what squad, but you'll eventually find things you like and don't like. The pre-made kits are as good as custom ones, but eventually when you find what you like, you can visit an arsenal and find clothing and weapons you enjoy on the map you're playing. On WCS, you can approach an arsenal and scroll down. There will be an option to save your kit and also load it at a future date, so you don't have to remake the entire thing each time you respawn. On WCS though, you cannot save a kit with suppressors or rocket launchers. If you are making a custom kit, at the arsenal, once you've selected the weapon that you want, you can then hit I on that weapon. It will show you the attachment points available, and when you left click, it will show you the different scopes, suppressors or grips that you can use and attach onto your weapon. Once you have your kit and you have your squad, find someone to give you a lift to the front line or start buddying up with other players. This will be the fastest way to learn throughout your starting times on any server. By following other squads or watching on the map, you can get a better understanding of how to traverse the map and tactics people use. But if you do find yourself alone, let's talk about planning your attack. On this map example, I've spawned at the MCU here. Rabcore is a point we need to capture, and Tropet is currently not capturable as it's marked in yellow. Now the quickest way to the point is straight across this beautifully open field. That also happens to be the quickest way to wind up dead. Looking at the map, we have some options available for our approach. By moving north, using the tree line cover, I can access the woods to the northeast of the objective. This will allow me to sneak closer using the high ground, scout the point and observe before committing to an attack. There are two different types of cover to consider here. Soft cover is cover that can't really protect you from bullets or projectiles but offers concealment, such as bushes or trees. Hard cover is things that can stop projectiles, such as walls, verges or buildings. Using both to your advantage will help keep you alive during the fight. And when you get to a point, planning on how you're going to move across it using these different forms of cover is incredibly important to aid your survival. Using smoke to conceal your movements when you move from cover to cover will help keep you alive in the fight for longer, but you need to plan out your movements and how you will approach the situation. Communication in Reforger is crucial to helping out your team. Too often I hear callouts such as, "There's a tank," or "There's a guy over there." These are possibly the least useful callouts, so following a simple framework will help you and your team understand what you see and what's going on. The framework I recommend is the following: what you see, where you see it, and where it's going. Say I'm on a road and I see a tank approaching down a hill near a town called Province. If I just said, "There's a tank," it will provide no use to my team at all. By saying, "There's a tank north of Province driving south down the main road," I provided my team an idea where the threat is. To help my team further, I can type this in the team chat. This will help anyone who's not on communications or has platoon muted to see where the threat is. To communicate with my team, I need to ensure that my platoon radio is selected. To do this, I will hit G, select the platoon radio, and then use caps locks to transmit. If I want to write to my team, I'll hit question mark, and then I'll use the arrow keys to ensure that there is a shield symbol next to the text. I'll then type out what I need to transmit to them and hit enter. If I want to speak to my squad, I can hit G and change the radio from platoon to squad. To go further, if I'm stood next to a squad mate and I'm trying to point out an enemy, I can hit left control and tilde. This will allow my character to point towards the enemy, or at least in a general direction of where the fire or the threat is coming from. I hope this video has been useful to give you a basic overview and understanding of how a game works, what game modes are available, how the logistics loop works, and a very basic overview of infantry. If you found this video useful and you think you'd find other videos useful, please let me know down below. There are other topics that may be useful in future, such as APCs and tanks, helicopters, mortaring, base building, and also MCU placement. If any of those interest you, or if any of you will find that useful, please let me know and I'll consider making a video to help you guys out. If not, welcome to Arma, and I'll see you out on the field.